Hey guys, Tim here from Tim's Turf Talk, bringing you another video full of useful information geared towards homeowners that are interested in taking care of Bermuda turf themselves. I've collected a lot of information over the years, so we've created this video collection for you guys to help you guys work through the process. I've learned quite a bit over the years, so I hope you enjoy the content. I look forward to it, and we'll see you guys in a minute. Welcome to the episode on backpack sprayer calibration. Hopefully by the time you get to the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to properly calibrate your sprayer. If you're coming from the other series where I've talked about pre-emergent and post-emergent weed control, you know we've done some pretty precise mathematical calculations, so we need to make sure that the amount of liquid we're putting down with those chemicals ensures that the chemical is concentrated enough to perform its job. So before we start talking about how to actually get it calibrated, let's highlight the most important parts of the backpack sprayer to make sure you're all set and ready to go. This backpack sprayer here I purchased from a local agricultural store, I think maybe $25 or $30, which brings me to a point that you don't have to have a really expensive piece of equipment to get the job done, and there are a lot of ways that you can upgrade these products. You can have different nozzles, pressure regulators, different straps, whatever it is that you want to make it more comfortable, more effective for you. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to use a base model product that I bought from a local store. The part that I needed to work on or adjust when I first got it was this nozzle here. This nozzle, when I would take it out of the box, actually had a nozzle that was adjustable, and you could get a very, very fine, pinpoint, precise spray on it. But that didn't work in my situation because I'm broadcasting over my entire turf. So I changed out this nozzle. It actually came with the package, so it was just a quick unscrew, rescrew in, and then I did a few test sprays to get the nozzle spraying in a nice wide fan-like pattern, so I could ensure that I was getting nice even coverage. The other basic part here is going to be a handle which you pump up and down to pressurize the tank. Inside of this tank there's a piston that sucks water and fluid out of the bottom and disperses it through this hose where you have a trigger and then obviously your nozzle. And to make sure that we cover an important topic again, we need to make sure that the amount of fluid that we're putting in this tank matches how much our output is going to be when we're actually spraying our chemicals. If we have too much water in this tank and we've taken these two chemicals that we've calculated to the gram and we put it in, let's say, 2 gallons of water, and we spray it across our turf, we finish spraying the turf and we have a gallon of water left, well, in that gallon of water there's still chemicals, so our chemical solution that we put down was too diluted. And then vice versa, if we put the same amount of chemical into little of water and then we spray it and we don't even cover the entire turf, we've overdosed our turf with chemicals. So making sure we have the correct ratio of water to chemical is very, very important. What we're going to do is calibrate this to 1,000 square feet because most chemicals for turf maintenance are based on a 1,000 square foot application rate. So if we have 1,000 square foot calibration here and all of our chemicals based on 1,000 square foot, those numbers become constants in all of our equations, and then we can just make our calculation based on the area that we're covering using the foundation of 1,000 square feet. So we're going to need a few things to calibrate the sprayer, and the two things that we're going to need are an area that we can spray, and we're going to need a determined amount of water. I'm going to start by putting a gallon of water in my sprayer, and then we're going to go outside and we're actually going to spray 1,000 square feet, and then we're going to measure how much water is left in the tank when we've done that spray, so therefore we know exactly how much of that spray, how much of that water we've sprayed during that process. We're going to repeat that process 2, 3, 4 times. We're going to make sure that we walk the same pace. We're going to hold the backpack sprayer boom in basically the same position, and we're going to walk back and forth multiple times, and then we're going to take basically an average over the 2, 3, 4 trips, however many we take, until we have a basic idea of how much water we're dispersing with this sprayer every 1,000 square feet. Now you will notice that when we get outside, I'm actually going to do my test sprays on concrete, and I find this very helpful because when we spray the concrete and it gets wet, it actually changes color, so it makes it very, very easy for us to make sure that we're getting nice, smooth, even coverage as we worm our way back and forth across 1,000 square feet. The final note that I'm going to make about the test calibration today is that it has been raining here today, And so I thought about not doing this video because most of the concrete is wet, but I still think you'll get the point that when you look outside here in just a minute, you're going to see the difference between the wet concrete and the dry concrete, and you'll get that visual that I'm trying to paint for you guys, that when you do your back and forth movement, you'll make sure you're not overlapping, you're not too wide apart, you're getting good even coverage. Okay, so now I have 3/4 of a gallon of water here, and I've also brought out a measuring cup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add this 3/4 of a gallon of water to our tank here. So now we know we're starting with 3/4 of a gallon or 96 ounces of water. Now we're outside. Here's my driveway, and this is going to be our test bed where we're going to mark off 1,000 square feet. My driveway is not exactly 1,000 square feet, it's less, so when I did this exercise for real last year, I did it in the street, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to pretend that my driveway is exactly 1,000 square feet. How I actually did it last year was I took a long 100-foot measuring tape and I measured out a 25-foot by 40-foot grid in the road, and then I just walked that grid multiple times. So for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to use the driveway. You should also notice the difference between the wet and the dry concrete, and that gives you that nice visual feedback when you're doing your spraying to ensure that you've covered an area well, but you haven't skipped too many areas. Okay, so now we're all loaded up. I've got the backpack sprayer ready to go. I've got 3/4 gallons of water in the back, and we're going to get started walking this pattern here in just a second. Again, just to reiterate an important point, when we do this walking pattern back and forth, we're going to need to have a consistent walking speed and hold the boom in a relatively the same position every single time, because if we keep walking at different speeds and spray at different heights, you're going to end up with different results. So it's really important to find a pace that you're comfortable with, a pace that you can repeat over and over and over again, and then do your best to repeat that process over and over and over. Okay, let's get started. Now that we're done with that part, we can take the amount of liquid left in the backpack sprayer, subtract it from what we started with, and now we'll know exactly how much water we just sprayed. We'll do this 2 or 3 more times, and then we'll see what kind of numbers we get. The next thing we need to do is transfer the amount of liquid left in the tank to this measuring cup to determine how much fluid's left. I'm not sure if there's more than 16 ounces in this tank, so what I'm going to do is transfer to the gallon first, and then break it down into smaller increments if I need to. Oh, there's no way that I can put it directly in here. An important part to note is that this pressure chamber here actually still has fluid in it, so that does need to be part of your calculation. So what I typically do here is I will just empty the tank. May need to repressurize once or twice to get it all out of there, and then I'll add that fluid to the final number here. Okay, so what ended up happening here is I was emptying this chamber as I actually exceeded the 16 ounces that I could reliably measure. So I dumped out that 16 ounces, and now I've gotten another about 8 ounces. So 16 plus 8, 24 ounces, minus the 96, 72 ounces. So I sprayed 72 ounces of water on that 1,000 square feet. I'm going to go do it a couple more times, then we'll meet you guys inside and talk about where to go from here. The final step is to take an average of the 4 runs that we just did out front of the driveway. I did 72 ounces, 74, 71, and then 72 again. So I'm actually very comfortable just calling it 72 ounces of water per 1,000 square feet. So now let's get to the whiteboard and do some number crunching. Okay, so here we are in front of the whiteboard again. As I mentioned just a moment ago, I averaged my 4 runs to 72 ounces per 1,000 square feet. So the 72 ounces, I'm going to go ahead and write down here, per 1,000 square feet. So now I need to calculate how much water I need because my turf is not 1,000 square feet. So if you've watched the other 2 videos on the beginner series, you'll know what your base unit is. But for the conversation's sake here, I'm going to do it again just for everybody's reference. I have 3,000 square feet. If I divide that by the 1,000 square feet, I get 3 units. So now I've got 3 chunks of turf that I need to treat at 72 ounces. So if I multiply those numbers together, 72 times 3, 216. So 216 ounces of water in the backpack sprayer. Once I walk the 3,000 square feet, in theory, my tank should be completely empty. So we've got 216 ounces of water, 0.6 ounces of pre-emergent from video number 1, and 3.6 grams of post-emergent from video number 2. So now I can go into the garage, add 216 ounces of water to the backpack sprayer, the 0.6 pre and the 3.6 post, mix it all together, shake it up, and then I can go spray my turf. And then I've now successfully calibrated my backpack sprayer and applied both a post and pre-emergent. If you have any questions about the math in this video, please let me know, comment below, and I'll see if I can get it answered for you. Let's wrap up this video with a quick conclusion. We talked about the different parts of a backpack sprayer, paying close attention to the nozzle type that's on the backpack sprayer. We measured out 1,000 square feet in my driveway, and then we did a couple test runs of dispersing water across that 1,000 square feet. We measured how much water we started with and how much water we ended up with, and therefore we know how much we actually sprayed on the driveway every single time we walked it. We took an average of those 4 trips, and we end up with 72 ounces in my example, and then we multiplied that number by the number of square feet that I have, which is 3,000 square feet, and then we came up with a final number. And that's basically what you would need to do. Once you've done this number crunch, just write down that number, and then moving forward, whenever you need to do your pre-emergent, post-emergent, or any other application to your yard, you know exactly that you need that 216 ounces, or whatever it may be in your particular situation, but that number now becomes a constant. So as long as the nozzle doesn't change, or as long as you don't walk a different pace, or as long as the yard size doesn't change, as long as the variables that we've talked about today remain constant, that number will not change. And if you find that you're walking the yard and you're constantly having more fluid than you should, go ahead and dial that back down some. And if you come up a little bit short multiple times, just start adding a little bit of water back to it. Take note of how much water you're using, and then that way you can just make adjustments moving forward. And that's basically it. So if you have any questions, please leave them below. I'll answer them, and we'll see you for the next video. And remember, yes, your grass can be greener.